Hey, it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise My Asexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality. So hit that subscribe button and the bell icon right now. So, what is fibromyalgia and why do some asexuals have it? So, if you didn't know, this month is my fibromyalgia, Ace Fiber Girl Awareness Month. So I dedicated Ace Fiber Girl Awareness Month to raising awareness of asexuality and talking about my fibromyalgia self-help handbook. In this book, you learn all about fibromyalgia, but I'm going to explain to you now what it is. So fibromyalgia is a chronic pain condition that affects the nerves and muscles of the body, and it's an unseen disability. So whereas some things are obviously disabilities, such as you've got a leg that's dislocated, you've got an ankle where the bone stuck out, you can't walk properly, as in you've got a limp, so it's noticeable you can't walk properly, you're limping all the time, or you can't physically barely move, or there's some sort of obvious physical problem. Unlike that, with fibromyalgia, it can be difficult to realize someone has a condition because it's a chronic pain condition that affects the nerves and muscles of the body. It's not got a blood test either, so you get diagnosed by pressure points. So I went to the hospital and was diagnosed with fibromyalgia in 2012. Symptoms came on about 2010. So I use the power of my mind to block out the pain, which is not normal. Most people with fibromyalgia, they have medication. And I was offered medication but declined it in 2012 because I don't like putting tablets like that in my body. And the medication they offered me was for depression. And it's like, I don't want to take that stuff, right? So I use the power of my mind to block out the pain, to not bring it to conscious thought. But if I get some other illness or problem on top of it, then my pain is like 10 times worse than the average person. I say this because I went to a doctor, and because I had a neck injury at one point. I had a muscle strain in my neck, and they said, and I was working in a day job at that time for an employer, and they said, you as a fibromyalgia person feel pain 10 times more than the average person does. That's the way it is. And at that time, I could work for an employer, so I carried on. Now I don't work for an employer anymore at this point in my life and time. So I was diagnosed in 2012, and what they do is they do a test, which is to find out, do you have pain in, I think it's about 12 areas of your body, and if so, you're diagnosed basically with fibromyalgia. Obviously, you've got to have a history of pain and them not understanding how you've got this pain. So for example, with me, I had physiotherapy, and in the physiotherapy sessions I was told to do some basic Pilates exercise or yoga exercises. I couldn't do them. I was physically in too much pain. And the physio said, this is not right. Like, you shouldn't be in this much pain doing these simple exercises. So then he sent me off to another specialist. I got to see a podiatrist for my feet, because my feet were swelling up at that time, which was a symptom of fibromyalgia. But at that time, they thought it was a kind of a foot issue. So I had to have these insoles in my shoes, which made my feet even more worse. They swelled up even more. And then I got sent to a hip specialist, and the hip specialist was the one who mentioned fibromyalgia. They didn't say I have it. They just said about it. They said one of your hips is slightly out of place, but they wouldn't have noticed it had I not gone to see them. And I said about it. And my mum said that I was born with a clicky hip, so it's out of place anyway. So I had a forceps birth, so it's a very difficult birth. And a clicky hip at the same time probably wasn't very good, but when you're pulled out by forceps and you're kind of dragged out, it's hard because your body's going through a lot of stress and trauma. And so why do people have fibromyalgia? It's actually brought on through trauma. So I told you that there's pressure points. So for me, I get pain in the back of my neck here, going down my shoulders. I get pain in my arm here, in my arm here. I get pain down the base of my back, pain all around like my top of my thighs, down my thighs to my knees, like kind of the inner areas as well, the pelvis area, and my legs are the worst affected area. So it's very hard to do an employed job, which I'd have to stand up in all the time because the legs can start feeling like jelly and start wobbling. And so it's really horrible. There's other symptoms. You can get something called fibro fog, where you just kind of forget things or your head gets muddled. You can get things where you'll be all right 1 minute and then the next minute you might feel excessively tired. A lot of the tiredness to do with fibromyalgia people is because, I should say, they are eating the wrong things. Like, some of the worst things to eat for fibromyalgia is wheat. Wheat causes fibro people to be drained of energy. Sugar, refined sugars, again, drains a person of energy. Luckily for me, I'm allergic to the stuff that hurts fibromyalgia people, makes us excessively tired and energy drained, which is refined sugars and wheat and other things associated with that. So I'm very disciplined. I don't eat what I'm not supposed to eat in those things. There's times when I've had something like, I'm allergic to strawberries, so I will allow myself very occasionally. I'm talking like maybe once in a year, but not even always that, have a few strawberry pieces, right? Or maybe I have the dried strawberries. I'm not usually as bad with them, but that's kind of a thing that doesn't affect fibromyalgia. That's just a food allergy I have. But wheat, I haven't had wheat for years. I can have traces, like if I got crisps, it's got traces of wheat. I'm usually okay, but I try to avoid that as much as possible. And I'm allergic to spelt, which is the alternative to wheat, monosodium glutamate, MSG, derived from wheat. But all these things I'm allergic to are good because I can't have them. And I do not go around eating wheat products. I do not go around picking wheat products out. I can't. I ended up in hospital years ago with severe abdominal pains, and they couldn't find out what was wrong with me. Then I worked out it was wheat, and I saw a homeopath who confirmed it. And he confirmed the fact I'm allergic to spelt as well, which is the alternative to wheat. I basically can't have anything like that. Can't have oats as well. Very intolerant to oats. I went to Newquay with one of my ex-boyfriends, and it was a holiday for his birthday actually, and I paid for it from what I remember. And yeah, it was awful. So at that point I knew I was allergic to wheat, and I was trying oats as an alternative. I had these raw porridge oats. When I say raw, they were cooked, but what I mean to say is they were the real porridge oats, not ready break or some alternative like flakes or something. These were real porridge oats. And I ate them for breakfast, and my stomach was pounding all day. And I was out, and I remember feeling just pain all the time. I couldn't even focus on what I was going out for. I don't even remember what the day trip was about. I was in that much pain. I got back to the hotel, and literally I was out of it. Like, it was like I was unconscious for that time, because when I got home, when I got back to the hotel, that was it. I was out for the count. I don't remember being there, like, lied there. I don't remember even going. All I remember is going on the bed, feeling so poorly, my stomach pounding, feeling so ill, and everything else is just blacked out. Like, I don't remember hearing anything more from uh, obviously he's my ex now, but the guy I was with at the time, I don't remember hearing him in the room. I don't know what he got up to during that time. I don't know what went on during that time. I was completely out of it. That's how much oats affect me. I say I'm intolerant to oats, but I'm probably fully allergic to oats, I would say, because I it's one of the worst experiences of my life that I always remember, because Newquay is a quite nice place to visit. But by contrast, when I was out and I had tummy pains all day, and then I came back to the hotel, I just fell asleep, and I was asleep till the morning, I think 7 a.m. the next morning. And I never heard what the guy was doing at the time. He was my boyfriend at the time. I don't know what he did. I don't know where he went. I don't know what he did about the evening meal. I don't know what happened to him. And it's almost as like I was completely unconscious for all that time. It's quite scary to think about that. I don't remember a light flickering. I don't remember hearing any noises. All I remember is I was completely out of it and didn't wake up till the morning. And so I think probably, like I said, I'm allergic to oats. I haven't had an allergy test for oats. I just know after that experience, I'm completely intolerant to them. I'd probably say that's an allergy, to be honest, because I get severe abdominal pains with wheat, and that's what I went to hospital for. But I've never been tested for the oats by the homeopath, but I'm guessing I'm fully allergic to them, really. It's pretty obvious, but, so anyway, that was a dreadful experience. And I'm telling you this because obviously, if you're eating foods that's no good for you, it's going to make your body react in a bad way, right? I can become allergic to things I was never allergic to before as well, which is really super annoying. Like certain fruits, like orange juice, I can drink it sometimes, other times I just come out in red rashes and start itching. So it's really difficult on my wrists, especially. So I've got to be really careful. But yeah, so going back to fibromyalgia, their only diagnosis is a pain diagnosis, basically, and obviously having symptoms beforehand of like things like I had like foot swelling, not being able to do simple exercise because exercise usually makes fibro pain worse. And when you do exercise as a fibro person, it can actually drain your energy. So you've got to be very careful what exercise you do. For me, I get drained by doing washing up. Like, if I'm stood at the sink doing a load of washing up, it's really difficult for me. I don't do my washing up every single day. I leave it to do in one go. I buy paper plates to save on washing up. I buy tinfoil trays to save on washing up. So I'm not using any pans. I oven cook everything. I'm using tinfoil trays and greaseproof paper and tin foil, put the food in the oven, and then just chuck that away afterwards, chuck the paper plates away. So this reduces the amount of washing up I have. I find the paper bowls are not good enough. They're like polystyrene bowls, they're not good enough to put cereal in. They're very small, they don't really work well. So at the moment, I haven't found an alternative, like set of bowls to just dump in the bin afterwards. I still like to eat with my own cutlery at the moment rather than plastic knives and forks, and I still like mugs usually to have drinks in, but obviously I get a lot of bottles of water. I can just recycle the plastic bottles, you know? And so these are the things I do, but like earlier, I was doing like 2 hours of washing up because I just left it until I'd run out of cutlery, and that is the real essence and crux of the matter. Yeah, it's horrible to admit that. Some people maybe think, "Oh, that's shameful that you left your washing up so you got no cutlery left." I had some spoons left. But yeah, I just want to tell you the truth because living with fibromyalgia is not easy. I am very good in the fact I realized how to reduce my pain, have more energy, and feel happier despite and in spite of fibromyalgia, which is why I wrote this book. Please get a copy if you haven't already got a copy. It's good even if you don't have fibromyalgia because it's an autobiographical account of how I live my best life. And everyone needs more energy and to feel happier, right? So go and get a copy from Amazon of this. So just type in fibromyalgia self-help handbook. And yeah, so it's difficult when you have fibromyalgia. Like when I'm doing washing up, like I did it for 2 hours earlier, I do feel really tired. Like after I've done that, it's very energy draining, and I get back pain when I do it. And if I have to crouch down, so I cleaned my fridge out earlier, which was really painful because anytime I have to crouch, like my inner thighs are the worst affected area with pain. So that really hurts me. Any crouching down to clean, I try to avoid as much as possible because it just causes me horrendous pain. But I need to clean my fridge out. I had to take the shelving out earlier. And so, it's good because I've cleaned my place now. I feel satisfied that I've got a clean home. I've done the hoovering and that. But most of my day has been taken up by that and doing food shopping. But I also got the edits finished for my chapter for Blue Talks, my revised edits. I'm going to be in a book for Blue Talks, which is a co-author book, and I've written a chapter about 9 steps how to reinvent yourself to become your future self. And in it, I talk about asexuality and how my life has transformed over the years and what I do now to help asexuals and how I took the steps to get there to make myself the future version of me that I am now. So it's very interesting. So I did manage to finish the edits. I worked a lot throughout the night, last night, into the early hours of the morning, and then I was working on it throughout the day again like checking the edits in between, like, having to do food shopping and household tasks. And I just hate housework. It really hurts me. This is why I don't do housework now for a guy. I don't do cooking, cleaning, or housework. If a guy ever gets into a relationship with me, I want him to be able to take care of himself like that. If he brings food to my home, he needs to wash up after himself. If he puts stuff in my microwave, he needs to clean it after himself, And I don't use any pans. So, yeah. My friends, if they ever come to my place, it's only my best friend that usually does, then he either brings his own food with him or we eat out. This is what I've only ever cooked once for him, which was at Christmas when he paid for our Christmas lunch, and then all the shops were shut and the supermarkets and places were shut on Christmas Day. So it's like I thought I've got to cook my own food anyway, so I'll cook him something because he paid for our actual lunch. We ate Christmas lunch out together. He paid for us to have a 4 course meal, I think it was. So yeah, but it took me like I think over an hour to do the cooking. It was hard work. But he does a lot for me. He gets food shopping for me a lot of the time. He will do some cleaning for me as well because he knows how much pain I'm in and how difficult household stuff is. Like, housework is really one of the hardest things for me, and it really causes me a lot of pain and aggro. So I do the minimum I can get away with doing, basically. And I do need it as clean and tidy as possible. So I would say I'll probably keep this flat cleaner than the previous one. And I guess part of the reason for that is because I work downstairs some of the time now on my kitchen table, because I've got a kitchen table down there, breakfast bar actually it is, or I work in my office because I've got my office downstairs as well. So because I've got like a masonette, it means I can get away and do work down there as well, which I find more effective sometimes because sometimes my legs start hurting on the bed, but other times I really need to rest. So, when I do a lot of work on my laptop or my bed because my legs get so painful. And so sometimes I just need to spread my legs out and I just need to rest in bed or on the bed, really. I don't, even when I sleep, I don't sleep in the bed. Usually I have blankets on top of me. I have a throw underneath me on top of the duvet and then blankets over the top or throws over the top because it hurts me even being in bed. Right, and I've got a mattress topper as well, memory foam mattress topper that thick, and it hurts. This is what happens with fibromyalgia. Like, it's an unseen disability. You have a lot of things to take care of yourself about. The food you eat, the exercise you do or don't do, the cleaning that you do or do not do. Your bed. Mine is a specially made pocket sprung bed. So it's got a lot of fillings in as well. It's meant to be really comfy, but still I have to have a foam topper on. And I have to go on the duvet, the polyester duvet, and then have a throw over that because my pain condition is that bad that it can hurt even being in bed on a mattress topper. That's how sensitive my body is to pain. And so that's why it's going to be so hard for me to ever live with a guy. And that's why I say it's better for me to live separately from a guy in a relationship because I can take care of my own disability needs a lot of the time. So he doesn't have to really worry about that. But I need to be able to do it in my own home, in my own time, in my own space, the way I need to do it to live a most effective life, one that's going to be the happiest that I can live. If I were living with a guy and he expects me to cook, clean, and do housework, and it's a bigger home and it's more to take care of, and he wants proper plates and stuff like this, I can't be doing with it. So it's just going to cause me more hurt and pain, and that's not why I'm here in my life. I'm here to enjoy my life. I'm here to have happiness and fulfillment and pleasure as much as possible. Non-sexual pleasure, not that. So since finding out I have fibromyalgia in 2012, that's my attitude. Now I look after myself. Now I have to take care of me. I also have anxiety condition. Like some people with fibromyalgia, they have anxiety and depression, and they don't actually know if it's anxiety and depression that cause fibromyalgia or that if fibromyalgia has the symptoms of anxiety and depression. I don't have depression anymore. I have been like in the last 24 hours, I've actually had some triggers. And that was to do with like event that happened in one of my old jobs and which I got PTSD from, and I haven't had any triggers from that for quite a long time. And then I just had some triggers in the last 24 hours, and that was it. I was just getting really upset and angry. And this is something that happened a while ago, so fibromyalgia people can get problems on top of fibromyalgia. That's what I'm saying. Fibromyalgia can't usually kill you, but you could get other problems on top, some of which could be life threatening. So I don't want any of that. Thank you. I'd rather just have stuff that I can deal with. Um, so yeah. And the reason why some asexuals get it and anyone gets it is because it's trauma. Fibromyalgia is brought on by trauma. So if you've had sexual trauma, mental trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, or if you've had all of the above, then if you've got fibromyalgia, that's likely why you've got it. Some people can get it through childbirth. So if they're giving birth to a child and it's a really traumatic birth, they can get fibromyalgia through that. I have heard, although I don't know statistically what the percentage is or any statistics that have proven this, I have heard that COVID vaccine can give fibromyalgia symptoms, or even having COVID, like long COVID, can give fibromyalgia symptoms. So I'm not sure if it's a fibromyalgia, if it's long COVID that gives the fibromyalgia symptoms, or if it's the vaccine that gives the fibromyalgia symptoms. But I have read articles that said that. I don't know how accurate that is. Please do not quote me on this because I do not have a clue. I've had fibromyalgia before COVID ever came along. I just have read articles saying things like that, but I don't know how much is truth. Do you know what I mean? We don't know. So I will park that one. But fibromyalgia is brought on by trauma. So asexuals could have had quite a traumatic childhood and life because we are different. We might have been bullied and picked upon. So we might have had a lot of emotional trauma going on in our lives. Some of us might have had sexual abuse because as asexuals, if we're asexual who's sex repulsed, we're really not into sex. There could be people in our lives that have read our body language wrong or just decide to take advantage of us anyway. Maybe we weren't even thinking about sex and then they decide to pounce on us. Right, this type of thing. Sexual abuse is more likely to happen with asexuals who don't want sex because we don't want it in the first place. Do you know what I mean? So there might be some of that. And I mean, fibromyalgia is not associated as such with asexuality. I'm just saying that the reasons why asexuals could get this, as this is an asexual channel and it's brought on by trauma. So this can happen to anyone with fibromyalgia. They don't have to be asexual for any of this to happen. I'm just explaining why some asexuals might have fibromyalgia. Now, not being able to have sex because of a disability is not the same as not having sex because you're asexual. But there is a crossover between some people who have disabilities and are asexual, as well as those that are asexual separately to people who have disabilities. So some people with fibromyalgia cannot have sex because it's too painful for them. Or if they have it, it's like hell. You know, it's like putting their body through a mangle. So this can make intimate relationships very, very difficult. Even without having sexual intercourse, it can be very difficult. Like, I love being in a relationship. I love being cuddled. I like the guy's arm around my neck in terms of romance, but I don't like it in terms of my fibromyalgia because if it presses on this part of my neck here and around here, it just really hurts me. And so what can be a tender loving moment can actually be very painful for me. Same as if I am in bed with the guy or on the bed with the guy, right? If he gets anywhere near my fibromyalgia pressure points, it's just too much. I can't cope. I can't deal with it. Right. And it could mean that he's not even touching it, but he's really near it and I can feel it. And so this is why I really need to live separately. You could say, oh, why don't you just live in the same place but in separate beds? I mean, that is a solution, but it's not the solution for me because I don't like living in the same household and sharing household bills. I don't want to worry about stuff like that. I like to be as much in control of my own life as possible. And when you're living with someone, you're not really in control of your own life. You have to like share the bills, share maybe a joint account, divide the bills up. You've got another person in your space to think about, and it's a lot of stress and hassle, to be honest with you. I've got anxiety, and it's just too anxiety inducing for me a lot of the time. It's like, you know, I like to be able to control my environment as much as possible for me. And you can't do that if you're living with someone else. You've got someone else to think about, you know? and they might want the environment very different to how you have it because you've got someone else's needs to think about. But when you've got disability, I've got physical fibromyalgia is like a physical disability, but anxiety is like a mental health condition, disability, if you like. So combining the two, having to look after myself, manage myself, cope with life with these conditions can be very difficult. And when I'm talking to you about it now, my pain is really bad. But when I don't talk about it, when I don't think about it, my pain is like not in my conscious thought. But because I'm talking to you about it right now, I've got horrendous pain in all my legs. It's really horrible. And I really need a rest right now. So I'm trying to say that fibromyalgia is brought on by trauma. Physical trauma might be something like you went through childbirth, or it may be that you had an accident or an injury, or it could be that someone physically abused you. That's really difficult to cope with, right? Mental abuse, emotional abuse, very similar sometimes. This means that you could have been with an abuser, someone who is verbally abusive to you, someone who's putting you down, belittling you. You might have been with an abuser or narcissist. And so this creates emotional pain, belittlement, backhanded compliments, put downs, blurring your reality. All this creates emotional pain, which brings on trauma in the body. And also, if you've got fibromyalgia, makes it much worse. Like, the best advice I can give to you with fibromyalgia is make sure you look after yourself and try and avoid any emotional pain and upset, because that just makes your fibro pain 10 times worse. And so, what's the worst case scenario of fibromyalgia? Well, some people are on crutches with it. Some people are in a wheelchair. Some people are bedridden for hours on end, days on end. They can barely move. And like I said, you can get other conditions with fibromyalgia on top of fibromyalgia. So you can't usually die from fibromyalgia, but you could get other conditions on top that could be life-threatening. So there's a lot to take into account with fibromyalgia. You've got to cope with the pain yourself. You've got to manage the pain. Then you've got to manage your internal environment, like the way you think and feel all the time, and your external environment, what's going on, like to do with like the the environment in your home and then other people around you. So if I'm going out on a day trip, it's like a military operation. It's like I have to take a bag with things for my health needs. And on top of fibromyalgia, I get low blood sugar. I have to go to the toilet regularly. Going to the toilet regularly, went to the hospital about, and they said it's to do with my anxiety. So, so yeah, it can be very difficult. And when I've got injuries, it can be more painful because I've got the fibro pain on top of the injury. So it can make healing an injury take longer, for example. It can make the injury itself much more painful. And so all these are very big issues. And if you're going to get into a relationship, the person needs to be really understanding, needs to be very accommodating. Ideally, you want someone who either who treats you as though you're a superhero of your own life, which is what's in here, but as someone who admires you for your strength of courage to get up in the morning, to go and live your best life that you can possibly live, and someone who understands your pain and doesn't put you down about or belittle you, and understands that if you do the washing up, my God, it's like I achieved something today, because those type of things that other people take for granted, it's really difficult to do when you're in pain all the time. If I clean my shelves out, which I have done in the fridge, and then in less than 24 hours ago, that is a huge achievement for me because it hurts my legs badly. And, when you have someone in a relationship, you have to make sure you've got someone kind, caring, sensitive, empathetic, who understands you, maybe even helps you with some of the housework or shopping or chores, this type of thing. Because if you got someone that's the opposite and they're putting you down and calling you lazy and saying horrible things because you struggle to do the washing up or struggle to bend down or crouch down to pick something up off the floor, you're just going to have a hellish of a time. It's going to literally be like emotional mental abuse and torture for you, which is going to like make your pain like horrendous, right? So you don't want someone like that. So you must explain to them how fibromyalgia is for you. And I wish more people would look up the condition. When I tell someone I've got fibromyalgia, it like goes in one ear and out the other. When I say this, it's like I tell a guy I'm dating, right? or I'm interested in dating. I got fibromyalgia. I'm like, "Do you even know what that is?" And they just quite completely ignore it, me. I'm like, "I've got an unseen disability called fibromyalgia," and they just pay no attention to it. In some ways, I guess I'm grateful because it looks like, I guess, nothing's wrong, and they probably don't even realize it's a pain condition. But in the other way, it's like, if you're interested in me, learn about my condition, understand me, you know? And that's why I did this fibromyalgia self-help handbook, because it's how to manage fibromyalgia to have less pain, more energy, and feel happy like a superhero rock star. This is my autobiographical account. That's me as Ace Fiber Girl on there, which I created this old ego, Ace Fiber Girl. I used to just call myself Fiber Girl, but because I'm asexual, Ace is a slang term or nickname for asexual. So I put ace in front of it, and this is me in my superhero costume. So for me, fibromyalgia does give me superhero powers because it makes me more attuned to what's emotionally going to hurt me or is hurting me. It makes me more attuned to like not putting up with abuse and understanding, like understanding abuse and abusive people, and to make sure that I don't come across these types of people, or if I do, that I avoid them, or I go from that being around them, because you have to keep yourself as healthy as possible and least pain possible, because once you've got the pain of fibromyalgia and you're consciously aware of it, it's debilitating. Like, I'm really in a lot of pain now talking to you about it. So, but I wanted to raise awareness because it's important. And this book is all my autobiographical account of how I raised my energy levels, how I managed anxiety, got rid of depression, and how I manage my day-to-day life. And it's good because if you want less pain, tells you how to decrease your pain in 25 aspects of your life, most of which apply to people without the condition of fibromyalgia. And it is autobiographical, told in a superhero style. So I would encourage you to get this book. It'd mean a lot to me as well. And it's good to understand it. So I hope I've given you some insights. Like, some people are like, "Oh, do you do any exercise?" And like I said, exercise can make fibro pain worse because you're already in a lot of pain. And then if you're trying to move limbs and bodies that are already in pain, it's going to get in more pain. And then the pain can just be so overwhelming and debilitating that you need to lie down and rest. So exercises to make you feel more energized and vibrant, as well as healthier. But if you go to exercise and then you're just feeling more sluggish, more tired out, more energy drained, it can mean that, that you're not getting on with the rest of your day. So you could spend like time, for example, doing exercises. At one point, I used to do 40 minutes of exercise. Then I'd be drained of energy for like 3 hours and not be able to do anything and lie on the bed for the next 3 hours. Well, it's counterproductive. Do you know what I mean? If I'm exercising and then I'm spending like the next 3 hours on the bed, not exercising and lying down, which is not great for digestion anyway, then it's like it's counterproductive. You know what I mean? So I think you've got to do the best you can. Obviously, people who have fibromyalgia who don't get out much are more prone to being more voluptuous, having a bigger body mass, because a lot of us can't exercise. There are some people with fibromyalgia that do feel they can exercise, so that's good. There's one I knew, blogger, who went to the gym even with fibromyalgia. That's really brave. But I do some dancing at clubbing. Most people with fibromyalgia cannot do clubbing, so that's kind of my exercise that I do enjoy. So I'm able to do something that they don't do. And in those moments that I'm dancing, the adrenaline takes over my body and like stops the pain because of the chemicals it releases, basically dopamine, this type of thing. It's kind of like bathing in those happy chemicals, so that kind of saturates my body, but I can still get pain up to 72 hours later. I did try the gym, not this year, the previous year in January. Oh god, it really hurt my body, and it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for me. It just made me in a lot more pain. So yeah, what might work for one person doesn't necessarily work for the other. But always live your best Ace Fiber Girl Life. If you want any more information about fibromyalgia, do check out my fibromyalgia self-help handbook. Go and grab a copy from Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Walmart. Have got this on their website as well. Check it out, fibromyalgia self-help handbook. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. If you got any value out of this, any insights whatsoever, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with someone else if they've got fibro or want to know more about fibro. I'll see you soon. Next video live stream. Lots of love. Take care. Bye.